The roll call. Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Jim Coffey.
Here.
Heidi Kelly. Here. Parents. Here. Anna Lehman. Here. And no Marty. Correct, Ken?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, so as far as I know, presently, we do not have a quorum, so we're going to defer any decisions made by the council until we have one. So the first thing, and this is a nice thing that we're going to do, is we have a resolution and we're honoring Zach Coventry, Noah Lewis, and Luke Zarko, 3 of our students. And I will read the resolution right now. It is a resolution honoring Zach, Noah, and Luke for heroism on behalf of a teammate. Whereas SUNY Plattsburgh Club Ice Hockey is an integral part of recreational sports and programs on campus. And whereas club members were participating in a scheduled practice at the Stafford Ice Arena Sunday, September 24th. And whereas first-year student and player Jenna Irovid collapsed while practicing, unable to catch her breath. And whereas Luke noticed her condition and acted, removing her helmet as she'd lost consciousness. And whereas Zach started chest compressions to further assist in the effort to revive their teammate. And whereas Noah kept count as they were checking for a pulse and continuing compressions. And whereas their work ahead of the arrival of university police and EMTs was critical in saving Jenna's life. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the University Council of the State University of New York College at Plattsburgh commends Zach, Noah, and Luke in their successful effort to save the life of their team. And further resolve that the council expresses its distinct appreciation for their care, attention, and action, demonstrating the true spirit of a Cardinal. And it is signed Martin D. Mannix Jr., Chair of the College Council. So. Okay, and face this way, photo op time. Come on in here and get Dr. You've got to face that way. She's going to be taking the pictures and I'm going to come on in there. Let me get out of the way. Does that work for you, Heather? Yes, that works great. Nice. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Good. Well, I guess thank you for giving them the opportunity.
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you all for coming.
Well done, everybody.
Smile, everybody.
Fromage.
Excellent, thank you.
Face off.
Thank you. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you. Good job.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Once again, thank you all. And
Thanks for watching. Thank you.
everybody.
They can stay as long as they wanted to, but.
Yeah, believe me. Thank you. Oh, did I sit in the wrong seat? No, I guess that's what I did. All right, we'll move on now. We have a presentation from Hailey King, Director of Institutional Effectiveness, and we hear a lot of talk about dashboards. Everybody's got dashboards. Hailey's going to explain some of our dashboards.
Thank you very much. And this screen is being shared. Okay. So thank you for having me today. I believe you heard a little bit about our new student success dashboards at a prior meeting. And so I'm excited to give you a little glimpse into some of the information contained in the dashboards. As a reminder or acknowledgement, Dr. Agnetti was integral in bringing these dashboards to our institution after having used them in the CSU system. And we've been working closely with the California State University system to get these up and running. So I will start by just showing you how these dashboards are accessed. So on the My Plattsburgh portal, all faculty and members of UUP are able to click into the student success dashboards. We currently have one suite of dashboards that are meant to provide information to faculty. So faculty click in here, and then we have 4 dashboards that are now live. I'm not going to click into each of these as we only have about 15 minutes. But I'll share with you the who are my students and what are their academic outcomes dashboards, provide really useful information about student demographics, student enrollment by level, GPA, persistence, and retention. The dashboards I'll show a little bit more detail about really help us analyze more nuanced data and provide answers to questions and satisfy curiosities that various faculty. I mentioned that we currently have this faculty dashboard suite. So when we log in, there was the faculty set of dashboards. We are working to create dashboards related to equity gaps to provide more information to our campus students. And Allison's been really helpful in preparing this papers. So to spice things up for people who have seen these dashboards before, I'm going to go a little bit off script and show you our test site so we can show you some more information that we'll be having available to the whole campus community relatively soon. So we have those 4 original dashboards that I showed you. Who are my students? How quickly do they progress? In which courses do they struggle? And what are their academic outcomes? But we're also developing a number of other dashboards to provide some more nuanced information. So I'll start by just looking at the how quickly did they progress dashboard. Does anyone have a favorite major that they would like me to demo information about?
I like biology.
Biology, all right.
Say nursing? Well, let's do nursing.
Nursing, okay.
First from the council.
So to select nursing, we would go into the school in which nursing is found, education, health, and human services, and then scroll down to nursing. So here we're looking at information about the cohort of nursing students who entered in the fall of 2016 as first-year students. If we push this play button, then we see some live action of our nursing students as they progress through the curriculum. When the students change color from black to red or black to green, it indicates the student either dropped out or left the institution, or a green graduated from the institution. So as you can see here, the student that I'm hovering over graduated from a different major. So it doesn't necessarily show our nursing students who started in and graduated from nursing, but provides holistic information about their experiences at the institution. So what we're noticing here is there's a lot of green, and we see that there's a really high 90% 6-year graduation rate among nursing students. 76% of those students who started as first years in 2016 graduated in 4 years. We also have the option here to look at some equity information. So if we click into the show equity summary, we're able to look at 6-year graduation rates by first gen versus not first generation student, by underrepresented population, which we define on this campus as all students with the exception of those who identify as white, whose race ethnicity is unknown, or international students, based on Pell eligibility and based on gender. So here we see that students who are first generation are actually graduating at a higher rate than non-first generation students. So it can help if we are interested in exploring how our first generation students, for example, are doing relative to their peers who have parents in college. That provides some interesting information. We also might be curious about what is happening, let's say after 2 years, we have 3 students drop out of the nursing program. So we can go to a different dashboard to look at information about where they might be struggling. So when we click in which courses do they struggle, this visualization shows information about the courses offered by the School of Education, Health, and Human Services, where the highest number of students were struggling in the spring 2023 semester. If I'm interested in looking at, let's switch over to, well, let's stick with nursing. Courses taken by nursing students, then I can see here that there is really only one course in which over 15% of students have a grade of D, F, or W in that class. I'll switch over to biology, since that was another suggestion. And I see here that there are now more courses where biology students are receiving high rates of D, F, or W grades. So those are grades of D in a course, F or E at our institution. We don't have Fs, we have E's or withdrawing, which are all considered to negatively impact a student's progress and might lead to negative outcomes like being academically dismissed or withdrawing from the institution. And sorry for those of you who can't see it very well on the smaller screen on that side, feel free to turn around like Todd is doing. So something that we have noticed in looking at these is that Math 161 is showing up on a large number of these dashboards. So that's our introductory statistics course. And I think it's well known by faculty within the mathematics department that a number of students are struggling with that course. And they're considering different ways of how they could help students be more successful. If we're considering that course and we're wondering if there are equity gaps, so in those different groups of students, Pell, underrepresented population, first generation, we can go into this equity gap dashboard, select the Plattsburgh campus, stay with the School of Arts and Sciences, select the math department. And for courses offered in spring 2023, we can see the courses that had the largest gaps of first generation students. So Math 221, there was a gap of 1.11 degree points between students who were not first generation and their first generation peers. So students who were not first generation were earning on average about a B, whereas those who were first generation were earning about a C. If we scroll down, we can see Math 161 appears here. And in this case, we actually, you see the black square is ahead of the blue square. So in Math 161, first generation students are actually outperforming their non-first generation peers, which could help, again, decode some information that the instructors are considering when they're wanting to revise the course and make sure that they're setting it up for all students to be successful. We could also look at equity gaps by URP. I know it says URM here, but that's why you're getting a behind the scenes look at the dashboard. So Allison, you know this will say URP soon. And Math 161, so students who are non-underrepresented population are performing better than underrepresented populations of students. And then similarly, I can select gender and Pell. Something else that you might be interested in doing is looking at the paths that students follow. So I'll go back to nursing here. And what information I'm seeing now is for students who start as nursing majors, for students who graduate as nursing majors, so we're looking at 2 major, where do students start who end up in nursing? So primarily, our students who are graduating in nursing, 94% of them started as nursing students, with other students starting as undeclared, biology, communication disorders. We could also look at students who transfer out of nursing into other majors. And so this might be of interest if we have students who are starting in nursing, wanting to better understand where they're going after leaving. A number of students are staying in nursing, but then we have a few other majors that nursing students progress to after starting in that discipline. So this is sort of a cursory look at the dashboards that we have available. What I'll show now is some information that Allison and I shared last week at Black Solidarity Day about how we're using some of these dashboards. So something else, and I'll preface this with, we have a group of 15 constituents on campus, faculty, staff, VPs, who are interested in using data to answer questions to help close equity gaps. And I think this is really interesting because it's not necessarily if you build it, they will come. But if you build these dashboards, then you can encourage curiosity. So if you build it, they will ask questions, right? And if you ask questions, then we can try to work toward better outcomes for our students. So if we go back to this dashboard, looking at in which courses do they struggle, I select all schools and I'll go back a semester to fall 2022. So the 3 courses with the largest opportunity to help struggling students were Math 161, Math 101, and CFS 1889. If we look back at fall 2021, we see again some similar courses with the addition of psychology. But the CFS 1889 Cardinal Foundation Seminar was really interesting to our group of students. This is a first-year course that was designed to introduce students to the institution, to help teach them college skills, or faculty are able to teach a course that is of personal interest to them. And the goal is really to get students excited about learning. And so if we consider that a course with that goal had the largest rates of students receiving grades of D, F, and W, we're not doing something right in that case. And maybe it's not, we're not doing something right, but something is happening. Something is happening where students are not getting that connection to enthusiasm about learning. So we also might be interested in, okay, so we know that students are struggling in CFS 1889. Is there an equity gap among our students in that course? We then have the option of going into academic affairs. And this is the only course that shows up here. So yes, there are also equity gaps in terms of underrepresented populations, in terms of first generation status, and in terms of Pell eligibility. And then for fun, we can also look at gender. And here we see females outperforming males. So this is a really good example of, we took these data that we got from the dashboards, and then we were able to leverage other data systems that we have to look at the impact of getting a grade of D, F, or W in that class and subsequent performance at the institution. So what we noticed is that for students who are being impacted by a grade of D, F, or W, they have a 53% higher probability of eventually dropping out of the institution or being academically dismissed. And so if you say to me now, well, Kylie, so what do we do with this? Then I say, we've got a lot of VPs in the room who can help to try to figure that out. But we are working with the Cardinal Foundation Seminar Coordinator, and she was not surprised to hear this information. You might have also been thinking before hearing that, well, maybe students are just not showing up for this class because they already know it and they're not passing this class, but they're doing great in all the other areas. And that's not the case. So the students who could stand to benefit the most from this course are not passing, and they're also underperforming in other areas. So I will, with that positive, with that positive news, I think the positive news here is that we have access to information that we've always had, but we have it in a different way that encourages people to really own the data and ask questions of the data and get excited about using it. And of those 15 people I mentioned who were part of that data action group, nearly all of them want to continue to work with me and work with the data moving forward, which I think is really promising.
Kylie, am I reading that right? Before you said if the black square is ahead of the blue square, that means that like underrepresented students are doing better in the course?
So just following the legend. So here female students are represented by the blue
okay.
square. Yeah, so it depends on which group of
I
students.
couldn't read that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
On the gender gap, has there been any progress in closing that?
In terms of a specific course or?
Just overall, say, a lot of schools, the gender gap is pretty dramatic and getting more dramatic. Has there been, with this information, has there been any effort or help in reversing that trend?
So I don't know that we've had this information long enough to begin to take action, but I will say I know Allison is really keen on looking into not only the gender gap, but if there are specific groups of students, like let's say female first generation Pell eligible are the group that need the most attention, we're able to isolate that and try to come up with strategies to better support them. So I would say that's the goal.
Yeah, but I think, Jim, you might also be talking about enrollment, is that right?
Well,
And
yeah,
or-
I think
okay.
enrollment as well. I know particularly with Black men, that's probably the most endangered group as far as I know. And I don't, I think if we took a look at, I think males in general aren't going to college as much. I think it's even more pronounced with Black males not going. And that, you know, which kind of reversal. I'm just wondering if there's something men are not doing that they ought to be doing, or something we can detect.
Yeah, that would be more of an enrollment question, and I think Karen's report looks at, for example, what we look like in terms of demographics this year. But this data would look at, for example, if we are recruiting, let's say 60% females and 40% males, there are some areas where women are not graduating at the rates they should, based upon the enrollment numbers. And so this would help to close some of those gaps. The other thing I was just going to mention about this data, I think one of the important things is, especially as we look at students who come into a major, sometimes I think academically we don't see first year students coming in declared, for example, psychology or sociology or some other majors, but they end up being extremely important, especially as students transition out of majors, so that we know what some of those fallback majors are. I think that's extremely important. especially when we're looking at growth of those majors. And then the other thing I would say in terms of course sequencing, and that is one of the things that our academic advising area has looked like at, are there certain course sequences, for example, with 2 maths, that also might cause some students to drop out, where we could change some of those course sequences.
Regarding retention and the DFW rates, we have another system, Cardinal Star, for alerting when people seem to be missing work, missing class, et cetera, putting up flags. Is there any tie-in at all earlier that can be used to target some of these populations?
So an intervention ahead of missing class and. So I think something that we've been talking about is building in additional success coaching and trying to provide students with additional resources to try to help. You're walking sort of a tight line. When we presented this last week, someone said, I don't want to be targeted because I am a Black male student. So I don't want people reaching out and saying, hey, you're a Black male and you're unlikely to succeed. But I think with recognition that there are specific groups of students that are in need of extra support and that could benefit from that, that's something that I hope you will consider as well.
Or even, I doubt that some systems are complex to merge, but to know that actions were taken by advisors and faculty and other support professionals, so that maybe the DFWs are still there.
Absolutely.
But we indicate that due diligence was done
Yeah.
for this number of people, and either it turned around or it continued.
We've got really great systems that do talk to each other. So this system pulls information from Banner. Cardinal Star feeds information into Banner. So we've got the data systems in place. I think a big part of it is leveraging Cardinal Star to its optimum usage, right? To really make sure that we're putting in that information so that we can get some good stuff out of it.
Well, and the other thing is, I think on this campus, there have been some efforts to do more training with faculty and staff about how to put in alerts, but there have not been any touch points with students about what that looks like. So for example, in orientation, or if you get an alert, what does that look like? Where does it come? We have not done an equitable amount of training with our students to know how to respond to those alerts.
So I think I've been at 15 minutes and I know you've got a packed agenda. So thank you for allowing me to come, and would certainly appreciate any questions that you have afterward.
Thank you very much.
For having me.
Okay, we will move on to division reports, and I believe Dr. Carbajal is online with us. Gonna go first.
I am, yes, but
Hello.
but by looking at the room, it doesn't look like you can see me. I don't know.
We can see you now. So you all received the academic affairs report prior to the meeting. So we can start with any questions that council members may have. Based on your reading of the report. I must say I had to look up what high flex meant because I had not heard that term before. Now I know. High flex.
Maybe as you ponder and think about, if you have any questions, I'll just say, kind of remind you that today is pretty close to the 3rd month anniversary of my being at Plattsburgh. And as you can tell from the report, and I can say here, I feel like good progress is being made on all fronts that I was presented with when I arrived in August. The new program front, you see quite a bit of activity there, in particular in 2 schools, but really all over campus. And the other areas of activity, which probably don't make it into the report, I can tell you here that I have been working quite a bit with the Faculty Senate on shared governance issues. The budget work is well underway, and just generally speaking, I have found it to be a very productive period of time, and look forward to the next 3 quarters of my interim period here.
I appreciated updates on the branch campus, because I think it seems like it's been a while since we've heard about them, and, you know, we tend to forget they're down there. And,
Well,
so-
and I'm very pleased as well that I don't know if it's the next meeting, but I know there is a meeting scheduled for Queensbury for University Council. So that'll be in the spring, I think.
That's good. Yeah, it's been a long time since we were down there, so that'll be something to look forward to. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, is there anything else that you would like to highlight that maybe we?
Well, I'll just, just going off of that last presentation that Kylie made, don't ignore or underestimate the importance of the new BA in biology degree. That might seem, I don't know, maybe redundant to you or not that innovative, but it is a big deal in terms of retention for biology students who actually don't want to go into fields that require a lot of lab work, clinic work, etc. So to have an off-ramp from biology where they can still study biology and go into related fields, I think is a big improvement and something that will make a difference here for retention of students in science, in biology. So that would be one thing. And then another thing that interests me quite a bit is the investigation and exploration of new sources of revenue. And while it is small, I would also call your attention to the CVPH workshops. That's a community, basically a community service, but also something that I think we should be looking at carefully going forward. There are other ways that the university can help the community and also, charge for services. So I think that's been well received and successful, and might signal some change and innovation and progress in that area.
It's a question, I guess. The cybersecurity conferences you held again well, I guess you didn't do it before, I apologize, it was held again. The community interest, are we just getting like the actual tech person or IT person from the companies around here? Or are we getting other people coming from the businesses, like the CEOs, or? I'm hoping there was 100 people there and there were some people who had their hands on the purse strings that would know how to then fund cybersecurity for banks and businesses around here. I'm curious what that was about.
I'm going to apologize for not having heard all of what you asked. I think you were asking about the attendees at the conference and
Yes, yeah.
what contributions they might make. I would have to get back to you on that. I do not know.
That's okay. I can stop over and ask across the hall. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and we will move on. Next on the list is institutional advancement. Anne's not here. I'm sure she's tied up with the candidate visiting campus today. So you all received her report. Since we met back in September, homecoming took place and it seemed like it was a big success. 500 alumni, faculty, staff, community members, 200 students, which is great. One of the things that we talked about, we met with Dr. Enyetti, Jim and Michael and Marty and I, was stronger connections with local alumni. Like local alumni don't seem to be as connected as alumni from far away and invested in coming back to campus. So we did talk about that, and and hopefully we can figure out ways to make them feel more connected to the campus. Yes.
So
meeting with Heidi and with Jim and with Michael, one of the ideas that came up was to celebrate and honor local alums who are making an impact as well. And I think that we would not have any challenge finding some really incredibly impactful local alums. So I think it's a great idea, and I think that starts to close that loop with respect to local alums. Thanks.
And it looks like there's going to be 2 additional staff members in the Office of Institutional Advancement. There are 2 new members, so that's good. That'll give some help over there. And other than that, all's progressing as usual in that department. So we will move on to Heather.
Now, if anyone has any specific questions, I think the great thing about the marketing is that we kind of continue on supporting each area. That's the challenge, because it's really ebbs and flows of each area. This is also trying to sit out in front of that and figure out what we can and what it's happening. I will say that with VP McGrath here, we've been working really closely since she came to better marry marketing and enrollment efforts. And I think that is an eye-opening for the marketing team for sure. How we're marketing with intention and being respectful, asking questions and even doing. So this is a new phase for us, and I think this is opportunity. Some different things coming up, and I think that the pieces I would highlight for us here are that personalization is going to be very impactful, and then the new virtual tour, which is on the last page, is something that we are updating. We currently have a tour on our website, but it's very outdated and funky and just static. So this will allow people to go into the tour. I'm hoping by our next meeting, we'll definitely have a prototype and be even further along, but they'll be able to go into the tour and literally, sort of be in the room or be at the hot spots on campus and experiencing them. So this will have really great implications for we get to campus, or only get here when no one can give a tour, our national student, anyone who may have accessibility issues that we just struggle to accommodate on a tour. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
I went onto the webpage where I came up, and it really is a lot better.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. It looks great, and it's easy to see, where you want to go. You don't have to search and, across the top and different links. It really was nice.
Just a minor comment. Okay, my experience, 85,000 years, is when students visit campus. Okay, they're usually on a trip. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 campuses, and it's awesome when they can get that on the website and see and go, oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
It really, and the parents too.
Yeah.
I mean, life gets in the way. You don't have enough money, nor do you have enough time off to go to one school at a time. Normal, it's and that search, it's a lot back, and it's like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, where was that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I find that.
Yeah, Heather, I would just say, if you need any support from our department, like drone footage, or we have a 360 camera too. I don't know if you all have one. But
That would be great. Wow. I know that the people who Concept 3D, they sent someone here to get like actual content, but we don't have that. So yeah, that would be great, even for the whole page. So we're looking at, I'm actually meeting with our vendor this Friday with our web person to talk about a whole new look for the website. We're not sure what that will look like, but the content blocks that are very boxy. I think we all agree that we're past that stage, and how to make something more engaging for the homepage, interactive video or maybe video, and just a different, cleaner layout that's less, heavy and more popular. So. Yeah, right.
Yeah, John's licensed drone operators. Yeah, with FCC, yeah. So
And that's another thing too, is capitalizing on the region and getting more, we realize we market our location a lot, but we don't show it a lot. So getting more of that content to really highlight, what are we talking about when we say our region?
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
We need grants.
Really sorry.
It won't be, no, it won't be, let me say it.
Yeah.
I guess so. Good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Heather? Allison?
Hi. So yes, I have my reporting closed. I'll just make a few comments. I didn't add anything about homecoming, but we actually partnered with institutional advancement on 2 pilot programs for homecoming. So one was a DEI Unity Day Party by the pond. It was also an opportunity for us to have a moment of silence for everything that was happening at that time that was really elevated and escalated. With Israel and Gaza, we also hosted a Sunday event. So whereas most homecoming events ended on Saturday evening, we hosted a Sunday morning brunch, jazz brunch. And it was really a good opportunity to welcome back many of our multicultural alumni. That was the original goal, but we actually had other community members and alumni who participated as well. And so we had conversations about how we might duplicate that in the future. Certainly, I think Sunday morning was an issue because a lot of people do like to get on the road, and most of the people who stayed were local-ish. But Ann Hansen and I are talking about how that might look different in the future. I also just wanted to announce we have a new Title IX coordinator, so I'll snap myself. So excited about that. They are transitioning from another role in the North Country. And so right now they're part-time, but they will be moving into that full-time role, definitely needed on campus. So we're really excited, and we're hosting a meet and greet for all of our staff on Friday from 12 to 1 for anyone that would want to come. I'm also just really excited and thankful for all of the collaboration around Black Solidarity Day, which was hosted last Monday. What day is it?
Yeah, right.
Okay, last Monday, but it was a really great event because I know that our faculty partners will give an update, and so hopefully it's not a contradiction, but I think it was a really good show of what collaboration looks like from a strong faculty role and faculty senate, from our student government groups and our student association. But I just wanted to make a couple of highlights because we got really strong participation from the New York State Division of Human Rights, which is a very new creation of the North Country Regional Task Force against bias and hate. And they actually paid for shuttles to shuttle people in from Saranac Lake, Lake Placid. We had people from Paul Smith's and North Country Community College. We also had strong support from the superintendent's office in Peru. They hosted a bus that brought students to campus along with 3 staff members, one of which was from their library, so we're really excited about that. We also had the SUNY Senior Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Chief Diversity Officer, who was our keynote speaker. One of the things that he asked me to do actually after that day was to survey all of the Chief Diversity Officers to see who actually hosts a similar event for Black Solidarity Day. We've gotten 40 responses back so far, and the only school that has something similar was just that they had some information sessions. So we're still waiting to hear from a little over 20 schools, but his thought is there is no other SUNY campus that is hosting the level of events that we're hosting on campus. So I think we should really feel very proud about that. I will say that one of the negative things that we heard through our evaluations last year was that we had more frontline staff who felt like they could not participate at the same level. And so through our efforts working with our unions, with Human Resource Services, and Todd, we were able to send out a message for time release, and supervisors were very supportive. I will say I noticed people from maintenance and operations, for example, who had never participated for, also frontline staff who were there, so that was really exciting. And then I just wanted to mention just three other quick things. One is that HRS, through a new partnership and this pilot program, we were able to do like a first engagement of just more support for people who are hiring on campus to be able to diversify the pool. It was a really exciting trip. I think now from the HRS perspective, we'll have to wait and see if any of those people actually apply for positions to be able to track that. And then SUNY represented really well. So SUNY Central recently had the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Social Justice in the Curriculum Conference. It was the first annual. I think we had at least 10
faculty went, I think 8 different sessions we hosted or were a part of.
Yes, and then like, for example, our TRHT, so Bridget, Heina, Michelle Bonatti, myself, we hosted a session specifically on our TRHT around difficult conversations. We're one of only 2 in the system, so that was very successful. And then just to comment on bias incidents, so I think we worked together with the police department, with Karen's area, and I maybe 2 weeks ago to look at what bias incidents we had on campus. At that time, we did not have any reports related to Jewish students, Muslim students, and so forth. Within the last week, we did get one bias report that the police is currently investigating, but more around racial slurs and hate speech. Nothing that is physical, and the other bias reports we are seeing are things that just racial language around the Black community. So we're trying to really keep track of those things. I don't know if anyone has any questions or.
Small request.
Yes.
Fabulous, Black Solidarity Day. So fabulous that in every session I was in, there was only standing room with people sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
We need bigger spaces next year.
Oh, yeah, we will never again book a meeting room, so we've already decided that. All the biggest rooms on campus, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, thank you, because we did have someone who was taking their entire class to a session, and so we did hear real-time feedback. Like, one of the things people appreciated was knowing what are the fire code room capacities, right? I think in the future, especially as we grow or if we grow, we'll have to look at building in more time for people to travel, especially if we use other spaces, because it's hard, for example, if you're at ACC, then to get over at our state. We certainly welcome that. That's very good feedback for us to have. So thank you.
It is. Yeah, and there were great sessions, and part of it was because the energy in the room, everyone was excited to be there. They didn't mind sitting on the floor.
But not that.
Yeah. Those old people stood, just getting back up and forth.
You see a lot on the news with what's going on in the Middle East, and how those issues are spilling out onto college campuses. What are you seeing here, and how are students being supported?
So I'll tell you, in the area, and this would be near, so in terms of our SUNY system, the only campus that we have heard some things from are Binghamton. The other campus is Cortland, due to their proximity to Cornell. But some of the things I think we've seen nationally with like Columbia, Cornell, in terms of faculty being filmed, making very specific comments. I will say that I don't think we have seen that here. We've also seen recently, this was just last week in New York State at some schools, not at any SUNY schools, where students were taking over classrooms, faculty members couldn't teach. It's gotten into shouting matches, people physically being in each other's space that could cause like a workplace violence issue. I think we have tried to, and this is probably an alignment with the president's messages that have been out to talk about how this issue of violence in any form is just a negative and something that I think our entire community denounces. I think we all know, and this is again quoting the president's message, that, you know, it's almost like if our government can't solve it, it is difficult to think how we could solve it. No one person has the recipe for what that might look like differently, but because we're Cardinals, we want to lead in with our values and really support each other. So that's sort of been the message, and people have been open to that. We have had some conversations, for example, with like Muslim Student Association, with the police department, Hillel, with our Judaic Studies program to see if people want to hold more of a peaceful protest. Right now, we're in talks with anthropology on what that might look like, just as at an academic level in terms of talking about it from an issues-based perspective. So I would say for anyone that has not seen anything before, it is because people are just not ready to be together in a combined effort. And I don't think we want to rush that, especially when people are leading with very personal stories. But I don't think we have seen that specifically on our campus. I think even in some other areas, you're seeing racial slurs written on people's residence halls, or things being, people's glass being broken out of their cars, people being accosted. And so if I'm correct, Karen, is that right? We have not seen that level.
We have not.
Okay.
And, you know, last week, you know, our Muslim Student Association, you know, went through the right process and procedure to hold their own rally, protest in Amity Plaza, which they did in a very peaceful way. And it gave 30 people their opportunities to, you know, share their points of view, but it was really well orchestrated. We had not just our university police, we had state police, we were ready in the event something went awry, but our students were very respectful. People who came to watch were also respectful, unlike, you know, the shouting matches that happened, particularly at Binghamton when they had their first rally right after the conflict began. So I think, you know, I agree with Allison. I don't think our student community is ready yet for a broader conversation. I think many of them are just wrestling it with themselves. What does it mean for me, my family, my extended family, or just for students who aren't, you know, Muslim or Jewish, just trying to understand this kind of conflict, this idea of another potential more global war there's a lot of anxiety around this idea of war and violence. So many of them are dealing with their own traumas that are really even unrelated to the specificity of what's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah, and I would say from what I've heard from faculty is kind of a similar approach, trying to figure out how to have a conversation productively about it. You know, I've heard faculty kind of letting students lead, you know, do they want to talk about this? You know, is this something in kind of what direction? And I haven't heard anybody talking about kind of anybody getting really upset or having kind of volatile conversations in the classroom, but I'll keep my ears open.
Okay, Carter's here. We're gonna roll with Carter stuff. Which is, I need a motion to approve today's agenda now that we're halfway through it. Second, Jim, all in favor? Aye. Okay. And we also need a motion to approve the minutes from our September 18th meeting. Jim, second, Sid, all in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you. And then we're gonna jump ahead. May I ask, do we need a motion for the resolution? No, we didn't need a motion for the resolution, so we do need a motion for Distinguished Service Award. So if you would make your way to the back of your packet to the two to the page that lists the two candidates for the Distinguished Service Award. We have two nominees, Sid, Jim, and Michael. We're on met back in early October and reviewed all of the nominations and selected Jacqueline Madison. She serves as the president of the North Country Underground Railroad Association in Au Sable. Chasm. That's an organization that celebrates the lives of abolitionists and freedom seekers and rediscovery of the Champlain Line on the Underground Railroad, with a special concentration on 7 northeastern New York counties. As a young woman growing up in North Carolina, Jackie Madison was certain about 2 things. She wanted to work in the sciences and she wanted to travel the world. After defying gender stereotypes of the times by earning her undergraduate degree in chemistry, she decided to join the U.S. Army to experience life in different parts of the world. She served during the Vietnam War and was also stationed in Germany, where she met her husband, Calvin. The young couple eventually settled in Fort Riley, Kansas, where they raised their 2 daughters. After working part-time as a library cataloger, she enrolled in a master's degree program at Emporia State University, which offered long-distance learning. With a background combining chemistry and information management, she moved to Battelle Pacific Northwest Laboratory in Washington. After 5 years, she moved to Wyeth Pfizer in Champlain, New York, from which she retired in 2010. Her community involvement includes membership with the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Annual Community Commemorative Committee, the Women's Rights Alliance of New York State, and the Rotary Club Plattsburgh. Any comments? Question? Jackie.
Dan's trying to get. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but she was.
Does anybody personally know Jackie?
I do, and she's also a member of our Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation. Yes, and very active with that. She also received the Women of Distinction Award this past summer, so I was recognized by Assemblyman John.
Great, thank you for that. Good. Okay, second is somebody I think some of us know, Keith Tayo. Keith served as SUNY Plattsburgh for nearly 23 years, for the last 14 years in the office of the president. As executive assistant to the president and later as chief of staff, Keith was a key component of the leadership team of former President John Etling. He had a range of responsibilities as a member of the president's cabinet, including SUNY system and governmental affairs, as well as special projects and work on matters from emergency response to public relations. He led the university's engagement with economic development efforts, including early work on the state's Startup New York program. In the community, Keith is a longtime member of the Rotary Club of Plattsburgh, having been named Paul Harris Fellow and Unitarian of the Year, among other awards. Keith was first appointed Director of Public Relations at SUNY Plattsburgh in 1995. Prior to that, he worked as the radio announcer for WPDM, WSNM, Potsdam, New York. Special legislative assistant to former Assemblyman John G.A. O'Neill, Director of Public Relations, Corporate Development for the Adirondack North Country Association, and Director of Public Relations at Paul Smith College, with a bachelor's degree in communication from SUNY Oswego.
Got more energy than any human being. I worked with them.
Anybody have anything else to add on Keith? I think that we have 2 very strong candidates. Remember, the Distinguished Service Award is an award presented by the University Council for people who have furthered the mission of Plattsburgh State. And so with that, if there's no other comments, I will take a motion to accept these 2 nominees to receive.
I so moved.
Sid, second Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are good. Thank you. And thanks to the committee for their work on this. You know, 2 very strong candidates for us. And thank you, Carter, for coming on over. It's nice to meet you. Hopefully we'll see you again. All right. So where were we? We were heading to Karen.
So again, in the interest of time, you can see the report, but there are just a couple of things I want to point out. We just ended the SUNY free application week, which is SUNY-wide system initiative. They changed the date and duration of this event last year. And for us, what it meant is year over year from the fall 22 applicant pool to the fall 23, At this point, we had seen a 234% increase in application. So for us last year was a significant initiative for us. SUNY announced early on that they would be extending to 2 weeks this year. And so as of this morning, we have just under 4,600 applications, which is a 14% increase over this time last year, and 2 years ago, almost 3,000 application. But the big news in that is that at this time last year, we had 0 acceptances. We hadn't even begun that process. And as of today, we have just under 1,900 acceptances. So we've really worked on efficiency and effectiveness of process. And that makes a really big difference. And so the staff really, when you really analyze our funnel from last year, it wasn't what we call the front end of the funnel. We were able to generate interest and generate applications. But the parts that really need work here at SUNY Plattsburgh are the conversion from acceptances to paid, and then paid to actually showing up. So we have new nurturing campaigns and relationship building that are really embedded within the admissions process. So we're very excited about that. Graduate admissions is also on course for fall 24. As you've heard me say before, I'm going to say it again, we need to pay very close attention to what our programmatic offerings are at the graduate level. Our portfolio is very thin, very narrow, with the predominance of it being in the field of education. And so if education shifts in any way, we really are potentially hindering ourselves. So we're working closely with Brent and his group on, what do those next programs look like to add to our portfolio. Brent and myself have been working to reignite, I guess one could say, the Student Success Consortium, which was an initiative that Ann Herzog and Corey Jackson had been very involved with. So he and I have been needing to figure out, okay, how do we really work even more cross-divisionally, up and down, which gets to the dashboard forward conversations to really work on that very targeted, very intentional retention efforts for certain populations of students. And, retention is not just about students who are not doing well in the classroom. So often I think we think about students that are TRIT are students who are not performing, but we have to look at who are those high achievers, who are those those overperformers who are leaving for something different. So we're very cognizant about that as well. The big shift for next fall, we have again worked with President's Cabinet, the Provost Council, and the ESS Cabinet to move orientation off of the summer. We found that we did not have 100% participation, given what our high melt rates are. We were finding that it wasn't a program that was really reinforcing students' connection, sense of belonging, or affinity for the institution. So we will be having orientation be more traditional of a nature, and it will start the day students move in. So it'll be Wednesday through Sunday until classes begin. And we've really, as a cabinet, really see it as an institutional-wide event. It's not just something run by, enrollment and student success or run by academic affairs. So we really are doing a major overhaul of that, because we look at retention begins at the time the student puts their deposit down. And so what are we going to be doing to fill that gap? And then how do we keep the relationships going? On the student success side, when you think about clubs, organizations, Carter can certainly attest to, our students are really active and engaged. Our clubs are back at nearly full strength. We have clubs that were reinvigorated post-COVID. So we're seeing a lot of student engagement, which is really exciting. Really partnering across campus on what that programming looks like, which is bringing back the energy, the vibrancy that the campus needs, that our students need, which is a vital piece of how do they feel, do I want to be here, which again, is a cornerstone of retention. Athletics is doing exceptionally well. They did well this fall. They're doing very well in the early winter season, which we're excited. And you saw our club hockey, be recognized. But one of the things that has really sparked me in looking at data since I've been here is the fact that our students are very interested in recreational sports. They don't fall under athletics, they don't fall under the student association, and there's very, very high demand coming out of COVID for students who want recreational sports. So we're looking at how do we redesign the division to support that initiative. As Allison's reported on, where were we with Title IX and bias reporting? But overall, I would say we've had very few incidents on campus. We haven't had, physical altercations. The amount of alcohol transport is at, like a 10-year low. We still continue to deal with, some cannabis issues, but nothing that we haven't been able to handle. So overall, I think our students are doing well. We're working closely with Todd's area on financial holds to get as many students cleared as possible so they can register for re-enrollment for the spring semester. Todd and I just worked again last week on looking at the spring targets for enrollment. Our overall goal is 350 for first-time freshmen, transfers, and graduate students. I think it's a little bit of a stretch. The staff knows the goal is a minimum of 350. There's some softness still, in the international market. So for purposes of planning, I think we may be more in the 330 range. I never want to overpromise and underdeliver. I mean, everybody knows to strive for the 350, but it all appears that we're on track for 330 to 350 for spring. And then we have been working closely with Heather's group and all of the enrollment area to hit that target of 1,700 for the fall of 24. So far, so good.
Any questions for Karen? It's based on the report that you received.
I just have one.
Michelle?
Not necessarily directly, Karen, but she did bring up, the Department of Ed is looking at changing the requirements for education. And I was just wondering what the perspective is here and what advocacy can be done towards that.
So this New York State education is looking at doing away with the requirement of classroom teachers needing a master's degree. And so we have already been participating. Our director of graduate admissions was already at a meeting about it. And people also last week participated in a statewide webinar about it. We're working closely with Brent and Samard. And then there will be, based on Brent's provost meeting, a lot of advocacy about slowing that train down. So we are already connected on the topic, and as more comes available, we'll have to determine what our next steps of advocacy will be.
Any idea where NYSET stands on that?
Yeah, it's their initiative.
Are you kidding me?
No.
I
No.
was Sadie's in the end, so I don't get anything from NYSET unless I find my sisters.
Part of that storm of people leaving the profession and not enough people joining it. UUP has a committee on this and we're waiting for their report to come out in the next couple of days. So yeah, I'll be working with Denise.
Heidi and I.
Thanks, Michelle.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
Well, going to the bar doesn't necessarily stop. Anyway. Maybe allotting more time to get it might help. Anyway, I'm done.
Well, if that particular legislation is passed, it has such a negative impact on our graduate enrollments. And that's something we're very concerned about.
Absolutely.
Well, you just said the quality of our primary education.
And that's sad.
There's not a lot of financial aid for grad students, so if you want to stimulate it, you'll start.
Well, it's not, it's not the cost of the education, it's what little they're getting paid in the job and their demand, like that's the problem when we look at our education system, it's like how little we're paying our primary education teachers, and how much they're being required, which is nothing we can do anything about, we can advocate for better pay for our.
This will be an excuse to pay them.
Or student loan forgiveness, yeah, instead of 10 years,
Credential.
maybe that's something, instead of 10 years, it's, 5 years. The P, what, yeah.
All right, on that note, we'll move on to Todd.
I'll just go over some of the highlights in the report. Sometime.
Ouch. There we go.
Cindy Plattsburgh, we established a lactation accommodation policy. For state employees. That was a collaboration with the DEI, Human Resources, Administration Finance, I think Clinton County Health Department, did a really good job. I think that policies, I think that how we can get campus input, make the policy better. Stronger. Director Budget, myself, the president, our budget talks, we're on the road. We've had 3 or 4, have 3 or 4 more. 4 more.
We're done for.
All done for all. Okay. So they're all melded together. So we'll continue with those. College Auxiliary Services, Rockford Alcohol Bunkhouse. They are almost done booking weddings for next year, so that, you know, if you're booking your wedding, you gotta get that. booked up well in advance. So they're excited about that. They're in a much better position this year at this time compared to last year at this time where they had some turnover. Facilities, I think everybody did a tour, or most people at this group had the opportunity for a tour at Memorial Hall last time. So that is substantially complete. The project is complete. The athletic staff are started to move in, or I think
They
they
moved
mostly
last week.
last week, yes, they're
25
all back
people
in.
last week.
They seem really excited. So I ran into a couple of them moving across campus, and they're really excited to get into that space. Fitness center, I don't think will open up until the spring semester. All equipment's in. We received some lump funding from SUNY. SUNY always stresses for campuses to have off-the-shelf projects in case money becomes available. Parking lots are good options of projects to have on the shelf. And roofs also, so we got a call about a month ago saying, hey, do you have any? Can you get these parking lots finished by the end of summer? And we capitalized on that. I think it was about $5 million in funding. So these are the parking lots behind Angel College Center and Adirondack at Banks and the open lots. So we received a nice lump funding to capitalize on that opportunity. The UUP contract was signed, and most of the across the board increases for 23 and 23 are scheduled to be reflected in the November 22nd paycheck. So people will be happy about that. They're in time for the holiday season. It's interesting how in such an automated world, you would think that you would just go in and maybe update and say, okay, do these increases for all the staff. I would say for about 3 weeks there, I would go into Sarah's, our Director of Human Resources office, and she was just doing math. Annual calculations for the increases, all of this little subtle nuances. It's pretty interesting. I'm not sure if it was across board ones or some other ones, but it was really amazing how much calculators were still being used to do these increases. Student regional procurement services, they've been hiring. We are still decoupling with the regional procurement services. We've been shared services with Potsdam for a couple of years now. That's slated to end on December 15th. We extended to December 15th. And we're hiring somebody, so we're putting ourselves in a position to end that. And then student financial services. Every about 5 years, we have to reapply to participate in federal student aid programs. So basically, in order to be offer Pell Grants, federal student loans, we have to apply every 5 years, and we just got approval. So we're good to go until 2028 or 2029 or something like that. So that was big news. Yes.
For the Falcor lodging, the alumni get 10% off. How about the children of alumni?
About what?
The children of alumni.
Oh.
For that off too.
It's right in the check.
You want more than that? I think it should be more.
She asked about the children of alumni.
Oh, the children of alumni. I don't know. I'll ask Catherine, get back to you.
Thank you.
You looking for next summer?
Thanksgiving.
And if you pay for it, you'll get the discount.
I get it. I pay quite a bit.
Make the arrangements, your name, your class year assigned.
I'll have somebody reach out to you.
You have a nice wedding present.
I guess if all goes according to plan, this is your last meeting with us.
Yes.
Is that correct? So thank you very much. We've appreciated your reports and your hard work on behalf of
Thank you.
of administration and finance. Good luck wherever you.
Odds are financial aid director.
Oh, there you go. So we're going back to that. I've been doing that too. So
Todd is from the campus, a huge service.
thank you very much. Okay, Dr. Agnetti, you're up.
I'm up. So just a time check. And what time are we scheduled for the art museum? 2?
2:30 to 2:45, we should.
Okay, so we're good. So this is gonna be a little rough, I don't know why my voice is deciding, but again, thank you for the opportunity to provide you an update and a report. I just, again, I appreciate you each taking the time to be here today. And I'm looking forward to our tour of the Plattsburgh State Art Museum. So among your first actions today was incredibly powerful, recognizing Zach and Noah and Lou for their heroism on the part of their teammate Jenna was phenomenal. Their quick actions for their friends really exemplified the true meaning of Cardinal spirit. And I appreciate you calling that out and highlighting it. Council, you certainly have a strong voice advocating for advancing the campus. And this is just one shining example of it. So thank you for doing that. Homecoming, among the highlights, and before you arrived, we kind of paraphrased your report. So again, many activities that range from the Athletic Hall of Fame induction dinner to a special gathering around the pond through the DEI Unity Day, which was great. And for those of you who were present at the pond, you recognize that there was a special appetizer solar eclipse, a partial annular eclipse that occurred with alums who are watching this. So with apologies to Michelle and to Bridget, November is Gratitude Month. And so I want to start a series of thank yous. And I appreciate the institutional advancement team for everything that you did to organize the homecoming. And certainly with conversations with various alums that particular weekend, they proudly shared that they leveraged the education they received from SUNY Plattsburgh to have had or having incredible careers. And a word that I hear repeatedly is transformational. What we do here is incredibly transformational, and it's a matter of, it's basically their factor for success. I also want to thank students and staff who hosted various programs around National Hispanic Heritage Month, which ran through mid-October. This included a special banquet that was organized by our student group Fuerza, and we were very happy that many students and many around the table were able to join that particular event organized by Fuerza. We'll talk a bit about admissions in Kehoe. So the night after our last meeting, it got a little bit moist in Kehoe due to a pipe that burst on the 5th floor of the admin building. It impacted the floors below it. In short order, Student Financial Services, the Registrar Admissions, and the Office of Institutional Effectiveness, who you heard from today, were moved to new offices on campus. And in many cases, it was 24 to 36 hours for that transition to occur. I'm incredibly thankful to the quick work of our M&O janitorial staff and from all the maintenance operations, as well as other staff who were quick to adjust. Our hope is to locate offices back to Kehoe early next year. On a further note on admissions and new student recruitment, we've hosted 2 successful fall open house sessions that brought more than 300 families to explore our campus. Even though the first one was a little bit rainy, soggy, it was moist, but we still had a great turnout. As admissions is now looking at fall 2024, I want you to know how proud I am in the work of recruiting, admitting, and yielding the class we just saw come to campus in the fall of 23. One of the unexpected consequences of the Kehoe flood was that the entire admissions team is now relocated next to my temporary office in Red Cave. And I've seen firsthand their incredible work ethic, their preparations, the late nights that they're there to help meet future Cardinals and show them why they belong here and what we have to offer. I think I'm going to miss being beside admissions. And I think admissions may not want to move back to Kehoe. But,
They don't.
you know,
They're like, can we stay?
Yeah.
They're very happy there.
So it's a really, in fact, this is sort of a side note to myself. It's almost like we should move offices. I know this is logistically not a good idea, but just move things around so we get to see other folks do the work that they do and they see what we do. Talk about breaking down silos.
Well, as the purpose of Red K changes, isn't admissions going to be there?
They'll be back,
eventually?
but that's years out though. So it's, they're getting almost like the trailer at the beginning of the film. It's like where it goes, the voice goes, coming this summer. Well, it's not this summer, it's coming in a few years, but they're getting an idea of what it'd be like to be together as a complete unit. seeing each other face to face rather than having to go up and down stairs or move across from one side of a hallway to the other. So I want to switch gears to OIE and on the topic of student enrollment. Sorry, yeah, basically with institutional effectiveness. I want to thank Kylie King, who you spoke with today, and Aaron Campbell, our research associate in the office, for their work on the final fall census report, which is included in your packets today. You can see the final data. The report describes the enrollment changes that are happening in real time here at SUNY Plattsburgh. I would say one of the most encouraging data points is the fact that our fall to fall retention has increased. In fall 21 to fall 22, the overall retention rate was 78%. And this past year from 22 to 23, our overall undergraduate retention rate now stands at 81%. That's an incredible component to ensure that we meet our Plattsburgh Next goal of 4,800 students. Our fall 22 to fall 23 retention among first-time, full-time students stands at 74%. That's up 1% from a year before. That highlights the next year area of emphasis, and it's certainly spelled out in the two pillars of the strategic plan, pillar 1 and 2. We have to really dig into that 74% and elevate it to the 80% range. And then the model starts to look very, very good when it comes to student enrollment. And as you saw today, the student success dashboards are a powerful tool that will help us move forward. They already support departments and programs to understand where students are experiencing barriers and roadblocks and where there are opportunities to enhance first year retention. And I certainly want to recognize Kylie and Aaron for their work to get this done, but also all the other offices across campus, including institution or IT, so information technology, to get these dashboards going. Gratitude for budget. I want to thank the University Budget Office for helping prepare our fall campus stateside budget update meetings, specifically Megan Renedick and Todd Morovic for being partners as we visit groups. You said take the show on the road. These are very good because it helps us share the status of the budget and acknowledge and celebrate the incredible hard work over the past 7 years that we've done that aligns our expenses with our revenues. Everyone always says, spend what you have. And I think SUNY Plattsburgh has taken that to heart to develop budget models that keep those two numbers very close together. Based on this diligent work and adding to our best state allocation in 20 years and further enrollment evidence that we're stabilizing, the model is now showing an upward trend in the enrollment. And that what I'm thinking is that we won't require any new or additional reductions beyond the current commitments that we see for campus over the last 3 years. So the 7.76% is where we're finishing up, and there will be a pause this year with any additional cuts. And I'm not alone in basically coming to that conclusion. The University Budget Office is strongly supportive of that as well. The good news with that is the units, for example, ANF, ESS, can now look at their budgets and begin to move things around and not worry about figuring out where they're going to find another 6 or 7%. Just use the available resources to better deploy and create opportunities in their divisions. So this is good news for the campus. And as I would say that as a further point, SUNY system administration monitors, and I would say very closely monitors the fiscal health of all 64 institutions. And I'm very proud to report that our university is currently viewed as a financially responsible campus with sufficient reserves and capacity to grow. So if you're asked, members of the council, that's the official word. We are a financially responsible campus. Next area of thanks is to DEI. And again, a thank you to everyone's contributions and support for a very successful Black Solidarity Day. Wide-ranging presentations and topics that were covered were incredibly relevant and comprehensive and oversubscribed. We need larger rooms. I agree. Thanks for bringing that up, Michelle. It was an incredible opportunity to learn something new. I also want to recognize the student leaders who helped our faculty senators develop not only an updated Black Solidarity resolution, but they were catalysts in the formation of a brand new policy, a new academic policy around Black Solidarity, a policy that I endorsed and signed appropriately on Black Solidarity Day. And I'd be remiss not to say that that particular day featured that keynote speaker, Dr. Ricardo Nazario Colon, who came from SUNY Central and I think was absolutely amazed at all the things that we do on this campus. I think he was just, his head was on a swivel, like, oh my gosh, this is so great. We had a chance to celebrate Dr. Nazario Colon in the evening, and he was so very happy to see what we were doing. So I think that, you know, as we say, Cardinals do it first, and everybody just races to catch up. So I'm pleased about that. I also want to draw attention to two things in Allison's report. The DEI lavender ceremony, which recognizes our LGBTQ students and of all races and ethnicities and acknowledges their leadership and success. That is set for Thursday, December the 14th at 4 p.m. And on, the SUNY Plattsburgh 2024 National Day of Racial Healing will be held on Tuesday, January 16th, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So two things to put on your calendars. Before I hit the last topic, I just wanted to draw your attention to the fact that, and this goes to your point, Sid, about Adirondack and the Queensbury campus. I was asked to make a presentation along with President Christine Duffy from Adirondack on unique partnership that occurs between SUNY Plattsburgh and Adirondack Community College, specifically around the students we serve, the length of that partnership, and the majors that we offer. What it was essentially presented as, here's an opportunity for campuses to look at these kinds of very productive collaborations and interactions. So we did such a great job. I say that with a lot of, well, it's a separate modeling. We got asked to do it again for the Board of Trustees a few weeks later. And so we presented the same thing. It elevated interest in what's going on between our campus as a, essentially a state funded campus and a community college, what those kinds of interactions look like. So last thing I'll talk to is commencement. Winter commencement is set for 10 a.m. on Saturday, December the 16th. We'll be reaching out to you on your participation as a member of the platform party. And like last year, we'll be inviting you to a post-commencement luncheon at the Olive Mason Flint House. So I'm hopeful it will not be held in a snowstorm. Although we have the most incredible facilities and snow team, bar none for the whole system. Even though it may have snowed, our parking lots were clean, our sidewalks are clear. It was just great. And again, it's commencement is truly a special occasion and a highlight of the careers of our students. And I'm hopeful that you'll all be able to attend. So with that, thank you for all you do at this busy time of the year as council members, as members of the Cardinal community. Every one of your contributions, every action, every bit of your support is truly appreciated. So thanks very much.
Get your snow team to come and plow me out. Minerva.
Well, there's a people are talking about alternate revenue streams, so maybe that might work.
Okay, well, Carter had to leave us and go back to class, so not have a student association support. And so I guess I am up, and I only have a couple of things. I want to thank Dr. Agnetti. I don't even know if I sent you a thank you note. I'm sorry for that, but who met with Jim and Marty and Michael and myself about a month ago. And our topic was on branding and promoting how do we promote the college and the good things we do and help to make connections with students. And I think a lot of work is going on relative to that with the new website. That's all there in Heather's report. Hopefully a lot of this targeted promotion will pay off in the long term with more patients, more acceptances, and really helping to identify what students want out of their college experience and how we are able to provide that for them. So it's exciting stuff going on. Yeah. So I also want to let people know, I know Michael sent this out to the College Council, but Michael Cashman wrote an opinion piece in a publication for the Council for Opportunities in Education on TRIO programs and relayed his personal experience with the TRIO programs and what they do and how they, their success with students, first generation students, students of poverty, and it was really a well-written piece. And if you didn't get an opportunity to see it, hopefully you can, because it was really well done and really highlighted the importance of those programs. And I know how important they are on our campus. So the last thing, I just want to talk a little bit about college council appointments. And I know Ken has been, advocating down in Albany with those. And I'm on a mission. I am going to write the governor. I'm going to write Dan Steck. I'm going to write Matt Simpson, and this council deserves a full slate of members, and we don't have that. And today it was sort of touch and go. Poor Carter had to leave class and come over here because we didn't have a quorum. And it's really getting to the point. It's ridiculous. And the council deserves a chair. We don't have a chair right now. Marty is still the chair, and that's not fair to him, and it puts pressure on people who are well over their terms, to feel, to stay, and because we don't have people being appointed. So that's my mission. And if you want, join me, write letters, and give me some names. I'll make phone calls, but
I just have one thing to say after you're done.
okay. All right. So that was the other thing I wanted to say. So.
Okay, this is just, I think, kind of reflects the school in a way. I had to get a parking permit, and it wasn't something I looked forward to doing for a lot of reasons. Anyway, I parked in front of the bookstore, went down to the police station, and the person there very friendly said, I guess there'd been the problem at Keogh, so he said, you have to go over to the other building. Gave him the information on my car, went over to the other building, Angel Center. And he said, I'll have somebody meet you. And a woman came and met me, brought me down to the elevator. I went up on the elevator, one floor. I was met by another person, brought me into this room where you get the parking permits. The woman who was handing out the parking permits was a former student. We were kind of joking. People were saying, what type of grade did she get? It was done almost instantaneously. They walked me back to the elevator. I thought I'd seen it. I don't know. But anyway, that's another issue. But anyway, I went downstairs, went back to the police department. He had it there. They instantaneously got the information over, got the permit, probably a 10-minute deal. I don't think I've ever seen anything as efficient or as courteous or as nice. I mean, to just talk about a first-class operation, everybody friendly, everybody happy, just and efficient. So it's really, and I think that reflects a lot of the schools.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Sandra. Sorry about that. All right, so Bridget.
So just a couple quick things. Faculty Senate is operating well. As President Inetti had mentioned, we have passed a resolution for Black Solidarity Day and then a policy. And then essentially our process is resolution turned to academic policy. Students had come in during our October meeting to voice and advocate for greater commitment by faculty to Black Solidarity Day. So we have had it on our academic calendar, but they were coming voicing concerns because there was faculty still holding classes, still saying you can't miss class or having high stakes assignments on that day. So they were really coming to advocate to at first it was maybe cancel classes, but we talked to them and thank you, Allison, for really helping to let our students or help them to understand why we did not want it language based around canceling of classes, that it's really a day not off, but to learn together. And we know the whole logistics of taking that day off our academic calendar as a day of teaching. So we really focused on helping faculty to understand how to reassign their courses and what that could look like and what that could mean. And we were able to create the resolution and policy and pass it through Senate in, I think, 3 weeks, Alex? I think we had done that work. So, that was, I think, an invigorating for our Senate to go through that process and kind of see that they had agency to make change quickly on our campus. So that went very very well. We're hoping that with the policy now in place that we will have even larger campus buy-in, which definitely echoes. We need to think about bigger spaces and, how is this day being coordinated? We had over 45 sessions this year. I think it was 47 total. So it was led by faculty, staff, students, and community members. So really excited. We had seen an increase in community members who were either presenting on their own or working with our faculty, students, and staff. So that was we had a great mix of sessions. We were definitely over capacity. That was what I kept heard all day long. I kept hearing it. Poor Jake Avery, trying to de-stress him and the fire code violations we were breaking. So we know we have, adjustments to make, but we see them as good adjustments. It's definitely outgrowing what we thought it would be. And we had, I would say, from, again, what I've seen from feedback and just heard, we had between 30 and maybe 100 people at each session. So we had 8 sessions going on for 6 different hour slots. So that's a lot of people. It was not, and we're really excited, again, to highlight the community involvement. Peru Central came, and we know already, we've heard that Plattsburgh wants to come next year and Saranac wants to come next year. So we're excited for that opportunity to grow. A couple of other things in Faculty Senate, we are always doing curriculum work, focusing on kind of growing our Cardinal Core curriculum. And I know Wendy Gordon is doing the assessment of that part of our program to see where our gaps may be in the course offerings for our first and second year students, because we know they're focused on that curriculum during their first 2 years here. So we're making sure that we have the diverse offering for them, as well as courses that will help lead them into these different knowledge areas that we're hoping they will major in. I know Carter wasn't here, but he came to our last Faculty Senate meeting, and that was kind of a focus of our conversation, was how Faculty Senate can better support the Student Association. So I will, what I think Carter would have said if he was here was they're working towards increasing the student fee. So we are working with Student Association to do better kind of awareness for students of why there is an SA fee, why it should be increased. We're right now the second lowest in all SUNYs. We are at $80. It is lower than most of the SUNYs. So they're looking to increase it to 100 or 120, which will really help to sustain our student association. So that's something that faculty is working to support the SA to do. And also, if you haven't heard of or know of Cardinal Link, it's another, I know a lot of dashboards we have, a lot of systems, but it is our community events kind of coordination system. It seems most, I know as faculty, we were like, ooh, what is this thing? So we're trying to spread awareness of that, because most student association organizations are using that to promote their events. So as Karen was talking about, and Allison, how can we liven up the campus now post-COVID? Everybody's here, everybody wants to be involved. And just helping our students with their programming. So we're going to be working on assessing, what organizations need better faculty support, who are our faculty mentors for different clubs and organizations, and how can we better support that aspect. So that's our kind of mission, along with working on faculty and staff retention. That's kind of my pet project, I guess, for Faculty Senate as chair. We launched our faculty and staff retention survey. So we're collecting data, anecdotal data, qualitative data on the experience, both looking at the positive aspects and the negative, as I mentioned in my last report. So that data should be in. We're giving them the deadline at the end of the year. Then we'll be assessing that, compiling a team right now, kind of across divisions, of who's going to be working on coding that data, and then hopefully developing an action plan. So I'll be able to share that with you all next meeting, maybe, or something, updates. That's it.
Thank you. Michelle?
Just briefly, overlaps a couple of the things that were reports. I think Todd mentioned the joint labor management grants. Now that the contract is initiated, they were rolling back out. We did have one director application for the spring, and then we haven't got the deadlines for the future ones, but those will be going out. Still waiting on the guidelines for the individual development awards. Again, close to $60,000 coming to our colleagues here on campus for professional development training, et cetera. And once we have those guidelines, we'll be rolling out those processes as well. And we'll keep up to date on the education master's issue.
And I know you came in late. Was there anything, we highlighted a couple of things in here? Anything that you
I guess I would just call attention to the fact that we have 3 more ACE visitors coming this, before the end of the semester, alumni in the classroom experience, and one of the grads is our very own mayor, Chris Rosenquist, so that's something we're really looking forward to. 3 of the members of the leadership team are now trained, and 2 more for, IA will be trained in the spring, and then we'll have 100% there, and we're going for the whole division. And then Pat Skip, that's our day giving campaign connected to Giving Tuesday. It's already going, and it comes to a conclusion the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, so that's November 28th. That's an awesome time to make a gift. All I have. Thanks to the council members who have come out for the receptions related to the search for the VP.
Okay, public comment. Have any old business? We did the distinguished service and in anticipation of our tour of the Myers Lobby Gallery, take a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Sid,
We don't need a second.
Jim,
Doesn't hurt.
all in favor? Okay, thanks, everybody.